The smoke from the burning village still stained the horizon when Maeva first saw the three men riding toward her cage, and she knew with absolute certainty that none of them was the one she had been waiting for. She sat with her back against the iron bars, her green hands gripping the metal as she watched them approach through the autumn rain. Her tusks ached where the slavers had tried to file them down, and her body bore bruises from 2 weeks of captivity, but her eyes remained clear and defiant. The men wore the colors of the borderland militia, the same force that had failed to protect her village when the raiders came. Now they came as saviors, 3 days too late. The first man to dismount was tall and broad-shouldered, with a beard that reached his chest and eyes that held a soldier's weariness. He approached the cage with keys jangling from his belt, taken no doubt from the slavers they had driven off or killed. "We are here to free you," he said in a voice that expected gratitude. "My name is Marcus Kane. These are my brothers in arms, Jonah and Willem. The raiders who took you are gone. You are safe now." Maeva studied him without speaking. She could see the calculation in his eyes, the way he looked at her as one might look at a problem to be solved. Behind him, the other 2 men waited with hands on their sword hilts, watching the tree line for threats that were no longer there. "Did you hear me, orc girl?" Marcus said, his tone sharpening. "We have come to save you, to take you somewhere safe." "I heard you," Maeva replied, her voice rough from disuse. "And I refuse." The 3 men exchanged glances. Jonah, a wiry man with a scar across his nose, stepped forward. "You refuse rescue. Do you not understand what will happen if more slavers come? They will sell you in the southern markets, or worse." "Then I will fight them when they come," Maeva said, "but I will not go with you." Willem, the youngest of the 3 with sandy hair and a nervous energy, shook his head in disbelief. "This is madness. We rode 3 days to reach you. The militia sent us specifically to bring survivors to Fort Crossing." Maeva pushed herself to her feet, ignoring the pain that lanced through her ribs. She was tall for an orc woman, and even malnourished and injured, she stood nearly eye to eye with Marcus. "I did not ask for your rescue. I did not ask for the militia to send anyone, and I will not leave this place." Marcus's jaw tightened. "Why? What keeps you in this wasteland?" "Your village is ashes. There is nothing here but ghosts and danger." "I am waiting for someone," Maeva said simply. The 3 men stared at her. It was Jonah who spoke first. "Waiting for whom?" "Another survivor. We searched the ruins. There is no one left alive." "Not a survivor from my village," Maeva said. "Someone who will come for me. Someone who promised." Marcus ran a hand through his wet hair, frustration evident in every line of his body. "Listen to me, girl. Whoever you are waiting for, they are not coming. It has been 3 days since the raid. If someone meant to find you, they would have been here by now." "Then I will wait longer," Maeva said. Willem stepped closer to the cage, his expression softening. "Please be reasonable. We cannot leave you here. The border is no longer safe. There are more raider bands and winter is coming. You will die if you stay." "That is my choice to make," Maeva said. Marcus unlocked the cage door, the metal creaking as it swung open. "It is not a choice we can allow you to make. The militia's orders are clear. We bring all survivors to safety." Maeva did not move from her spot. "You open the cage, but you speak of forcing me to come with you. That is not rescue. That is another kind of captivity." The accusation hung in the air between them. Marcus's face reddened, but before he could respond, Jonah put a hand on his shoulder. "She has a point, Marcus. We cannot drag her against her will. That would make us no better than the slavers. We cannot just leave her here to die," Marcus protested. "I will not die," Maeva said. "He will come for me." "Who?" Willem asked, genuine curiosity in his voice. "Who is this person you trust so much?" For the first time, something other than defiance showed in Maeva's eyes. Her expression softened and she touched the place over her heart. His name is Kieran. Kieran Kessler. He is a hunter who lives in the high country, 3 days north of where my village stood. We met last spring when he came to trade furs, and we have been meeting since then in secret. When the raids began, I sent him a message. He will come. Marcus's expression darkened. You are waiting for a human, an orc girl waiting for a human man. Yes, Maeva said, lifting her chin. And you believe he will risk his life to come into raider territory for you? Marcus's tone made his skepticism clear. I know he will, Maeva said. Jonah shook his head slowly. Girl, I mean no disrespect, but men make many promises to women they bed in secret. It does not mean those promises are kept when danger comes. Maeva's tusks showed as her lips pulled back. You know nothing of him, nothing of what we share. I know human nature, Marcus said, and I know that whatever this hunter told you, he is not coming. He is safe in his mountain home, and you are here, alone and vulnerable. Accept reality and come with us. No, Maeva said. The standoff stretched between them. Rain pattered against the iron cage, and somewhere in the distance, a crow called. Finally, Marcus stepped back. Fine. We will make camp and wait with you until nightfall. When your hunter does not come by then, you will see reason and come with us. I will not, Maeva said. We will see, Marcus replied. The 3 men made camp within sight of the cage, building a fire under a makeshift shelter and setting out their provisions. Maeva watched them work, but she did not leave the cage. It was as if she had claimed it as her own space, transforming it from a prison into a place of voluntary vigil. As the afternoon wore on, Willem brought her food and water. She accepted it without comment, eating mechanically while keeping her eyes on the northern road. Willem lingered, sitting on a fallen log just outside the cage. How did you meet him? He asked. This Kieran. Maeva glanced at him, then back to the road. Why do you care? Because I am trying to understand, Willem said. I have heard stories of orcs and humans who fall in love, but I have never met anyone who lived such a story. It is forbidden in most places. It is forbidden in all places, Maeva said quietly. My clan would have killed me if they knew. His people would have driven him out. We met by accident at a creek where I was gathering herbs. He was tracking a wounded elk. We saw each other, and instead of fighting or fleeing, we talked. And then we kept talking every week at the same place. And you fell in love, Willem said. Yes, Maeva said simply. Love does not ask permission. It does not care about green skin or tusks or the laws of clans and villages. It simply is. Willem was quiet for a moment. My sister loved a man our father forbade her to marry. She ran away with him. I have not seen her in 3 years, but I know she is happy. Sometimes love requires courage. Your sister is fortunate she could run, Maeva said. Kieran and I could not. He has land, a life. I had my clan responsibilities. We stole moments when we could, and we dreamed of a time when things might be different. And you believe he will come for you now, when things are at their most dangerous? Willem asked. I know he will, Maeva said, because he promised. And because I would do the same for him. As evening approached, Marcus grew more insistent. He stood outside the cage, his patience clearly worn thin. The sun is setting. Your hunter has not come. Will you accept reason now? No, Maeva said. You are a fool, Marcus said harshly. You are throwing your life away on a dream. Men like this Kieran, they do not risk everything for orc women. They take their pleasure and move on. Maeva rose to her feet, her eyes blazing. You do not know him. You do not know us. Keep your bitter judgments to yourself. I am trying to save your life, Marcus said. I did not ask you to, Maeva shot back. I asked nothing of you or your militia. You came here for your own reasons, to soothe your own guilt perhaps for failing to protect my village in the first place. Do not pretend this is about me. The accusation struck home. Marcus stepped back as if slapped, his face contorting with anger and shame. "Fine. Stay here and die then. I wash my hands of you." He stalked back to the fire, leaving Jonah and Willem to exchange worried glances. As darkness fell, the temperature dropped and frost began to form on the iron bars of the cage. Maeva wrapped herself in the thin blanket Willem had given her and settled in to wait. The three men took turns keeping watch through the night. Maeva did not sleep. She sat with her eyes fixed on the darkness to the north, willing Kieran to appear. Every sound made her heart race, every shadow might be him, but the hours passed and the road remained empty. Dawn came gray and cold. Marcus approached the cage as the first light touched the sky. "He is not coming," he said, and his voice was almost gentle now. "Please, come with us. We leave within the hour." Maeva's throat was tight, but she forced the words out. "I will wait for him." Marcus looked at her for a long moment, then nodded slowly. "Very well. We cannot force you, and we cannot stay any longer. Raiders have been spotted 10 miles east. This area will not be safe much longer." He placed a knife and a water skin beside the cage door. "Take these, at least. And if you change your mind, Fort Crossing is 2 days south on the main road. Ask for Captain Helena Voss. She will see you are given shelter." Maeva nodded, not trusting herself to speak. She watched as the three men broke camp as they saddled their horses and prepared to ride away. Willem came to her last. "I hope he comes," he said quietly. "I hope I am wrong about the world, and that love can be strong enough to overcome all obstacles. But if he does not come by tomorrow, please save yourself. Do not die here for a promise that was not kept." "He will keep his promise," Maeva said. Willem nodded and walked away. Moments later, the three men rode south, and Maeva was alone again. The day passed with agonizing slowness. The sun climbed and fell, and still Kieran did not come. Maeva forced herself to eat the rations the men had left, to drink water, to keep her strength up. She told herself stories of every moment she and Kieran had shared, using them as talismans against despair. She remembered the first time he had kissed her, in the shade of an old willow by the creek. She remembered how his hands had trembled, how he had asked permission first, as if afraid she might break. She remembered the taste of him, the warmth of his skin against hers. She remembered the day he had carved her name into a piece of antler, the letters forming her name in the human script he had been teaching her. She remembered how he had placed it in her hands and said, "So you will always know you are real to me. Not a secret or a shame, but the most important person in my world." She remembered the last time she had seen him, 2 weeks before the raids came. They had lain together in the grass beside the creek, and he had told her he was working on something, a plan that might allow them to be together openly. He would not say more, wanting it to be a surprise, but his eyes had been full of hope. And she remembered the message she had sent when the first raid came, carried by a traveling merchant she trusted. 3 words, "Come for me." He would come. She knew he would come. The second night fell, and with it came a storm. Rain lashed down in sheets, turning the ground to mud and making the iron cage a miserable place of cold and damp. Maeva huddled in the corner, shivering despite her best efforts to stay warm. The blanket was soaked through, and her body ached with cold and old injuries. This was how she would die, she thought distantly. Not in battle, not protecting her clan, but alone in a cage in the rain, waiting for a man who perhaps could not come after all. Maybe Marcus had been right. Maybe she was a fool. But even thinking it felt like betrayal, so she pushed the thought away and wrapped her arms around herself and waited. The rain was so loud that she almost did not hear the horse. It was only when lightning flashed and illuminated the road that she saw him, a figure riding hard through the storm, hunched against the wind. Maeva struggled to her feet, her heart suddenly pounding so hard it hurt. "Kieran," she called, but the wind stole her voice. The figure came closer, close enough now that she could see it was indeed a man on horseback, leading a second horse behind him. Close enough that lightning revealed dark hair plastered to his head, a familiar profile, broad shoulders wrapped in a traveling cloak. "Kieran!" She shouted, and this time he heard. The rider spurred his horse forward, and moments later he was there, dismounting in a splash of mud and running to the cage. It was him. It was truly him. Kieran Kessler looked as if he had ridden through hell to reach her. His clothes were torn and muddy, his face scratched and bruised, and there was a desperate wildness in his eyes. He grabbed the bars of the cage, his hands finding hers through the iron. "Maeva," he said, and her name was a prayer and a curse and a declaration all at once. "Maeva, I am here. I am sorry it took so long. I am so sorry." "You came," she said, and tears were streaming down her face, mixing with the rain. "You came for me. Did you doubt I would?" he asked, already working at the lock on the cage door with shaking hands. "Did you think anything in this world could keep me from you? The militia sent men," she said. 3 days ago. They tried to take me away. They said you would not come." Kieran's jaw tightened as the lock clicked open. He wrenched the cage door wide and pulled her into his arms, holding her as if she might disappear if he let go. "Then they were fools. I will always come for you. Always." Maeva buried her face in his shoulder and let herself shake apart. All the strength that had kept her upright for days dissolved in the safety of his embrace. "I was so afraid," she whispered. "I was so afraid you were hurt or dead, or that something had happened." "Something did happen," Kieran said, pulling back just enough to look at her. "The message reached me, but I was 3 days into the deep mountains tracking a bear that had been killing livestock. By the time I made it back to my cabin, the message was 5 days old. I rode without stopping, Maeva. I killed 2 horses getting here. I pushed through raider territory and a landslide in this damned storm. Nothing was going to stop me from reaching you." He cupped her face in his hands, his thumbs brushing away her tears. "I am here now. You are safe. I will never let anyone take you again." Maeva kissed him, fierce and desperate, pouring every ounce of fear and relief and love into it. He kissed her back with equal intensity, his arms tightening around her. When they finally broke apart, both breathing hard, Kieran rested his forehead against hers. "We need to go. This area is not safe, and you need warmth and food and rest. Can you ride?" "I can do anything now that you are here," Maeva said. Kieran helped her onto the second horse, wrapping his own dry cloak around her shoulders. He mounted his own horse and took the lead rope of hers. "We are going to my cabin. It is 3 days north, but there is a hunter's shelter half a day from here. We will stop there until the storm passes." They rode through the remainder of the night, and Maeva felt as if she were in a dream. The storm, the cold, the pain in her body, all of it seemed distant and unimportant. Kieran was here. He had come for her. Nothing else mattered. The hunter's shelter was a small, sturdy structure built into the side of a hill. Kieran got Maeva inside first, then saw to the horses, bringing them into a small lean-to attached to the shelter. When he finally came inside and barred the door against the wind, Maeva was sitting by the fire he had built, watching him with eyes that seemed to see into his soul. "You look terrible," she said. "You look beautiful," he replied. She laughed, a broken sound that held more emotion than words. "I am covered in bruises and mud. My hair is a disaster. I smell like a cage." "You are alive," Kieran said, kneeling in front of her. "You are here. That makes you the most beautiful thing I have ever seen." He began checking her over, his touch gentle but thorough as he examined her injuries. His face darkened when he saw the bruises, the scrapes, the places where she had been hurt. "Who did this to you?" "The slavers," Maeva said. "They are dead now. The militia killed them." "Not before hurting you," Kieran said, and there was murder in his voice. "I should have been there. I should have protected you." "You could not have known," Maeva said, catching his hands in hers. "The raids came without warning. My entire village was destroyed. I survived only because I was gathering wood at the edge of the forest when they attacked. By the time I realized what was happening, it was too late to do anything but hide. They found me the next day." Kieran's eyes closed, pain written across his face. "Your clan, your family, all gone," Maeva said quietly. "My mother, my sister, everyone. The raiders burned it all." "Gods, Maeva, I am so sorry." "Do not be sorry," she said. "Be here. That is all I need." He opened his eyes and looked at her, and the love there was so fierce it took her breath away. "I am here, and I am never letting you go again. Never." They sat together by the fire as the storm raged outside, holding each other and simply existing in the same space. After a while, Kieran brought out his pack and produced food, real food, not the rations of the militia. There was dried meat and cheese and bread that was only slightly stale, and Maeva ate as if she had never tasted anything so good. "I need to tell you something," Kieran said as they ate. "About the plan I mentioned before, the surprise I was working on." Maeva looked at him, curious despite her exhaustion. "I have been buying land," Kieran said. "Far to the north in the territory beyond the frontier. It is wild country, barely settled, but there is a valley there, hidden in the mountains. Good water, good soil, abundant game. I have been working on building a cabin there, larger than my hunting shelter. A real home." "Why?" Maeva asked, though her heart was beginning to understand. "Because I want us to have a place where we can be together," Kieran said. "A place where it does not matter that you are orc and I am human. A place where we can simply be Maeva and Kieran, two people who love each other. I was going to ask you to come away with me, to leave everything behind and start a new life." Tears were rolling down Maeva's face again. "When? When were you going to ask me?" "Next month," Kieran said. "I wanted to have everything ready first. The cabin finished, supplies laid in for winter. I wanted to be able to offer you a real future, not just a dream." "You fool," Maeva said, her voice breaking. "Do you think I need a finished cabin? Do you think I need supplies and security? All I need is you." "I know," Kieran said, "but I wanted to give you more. You deserve more." "I deserve nothing," Maeva said, "except the chance to love you without hiding. And if you are offering me that, then you are offering me everything that matters." Kieran pulled her close, and they stayed that way until the fire burned low and exhaustion finally claimed them both. They slept wrapped in each other's arms, safe for the first time in what felt like forever. When Maeva woke, daylight was streaming through the cracks in the shelter's walls and the storm had passed. Kieran was already awake, watching her with a soft expression. "How do you feel?" "Sore," she admitted. "But alive." "We should stay here another day," Kieran said. "Give you time to rest before we make the journey north." "No," Maeva said, pushing herself to sit up. "I want to leave. I want to go to this valley you have been building for us. I want to start our life together now." Kieran searched her face, then nodded. "All right, but we go slowly. If you need to stop, we stop. Your health is more important than speed." They set out later that morning, riding north through country that grew progressively wilder and more beautiful. Kieran led them along paths that Maeva would never have found on her own, hunters' trails that wound through forests and across streams. He pointed out landmarks and told her stories about the land, and gradually the haunted look began to fade from her eyes. They spent 3 nights on the trail, camping under the stars and talking for hours about everything and nothing. Kieran told her about his childhood, about losing his parents to fever and growing up alone in the mountains. Maeva told him about orc culture, about the clan structure and the ceremonies and the expectations that had always felt too small for the person she was inside. "I never fit," she confessed on the third night. "I was too curious, too willing to question the old ways. My mother despaired of me ever finding a place in the clan. She would have been horrified to know I fell in love with a human." "Would she have hated me?" Kieran asked. Maeva considered the question. "No. She would have been afraid for me, afraid of what would happen to me for breaking such a fundamental taboo. But if she had known you, I think she would have understood. My mother believed in following your heart, even when it was difficult." "I wish I could have met her," Kieran said. "I wish you could have too," Maeva said quietly. On the fourth day, they reached the valley. It opened up before them like a secret, a wide expanse of meadow surrounded by mountains, with a river running through the center and forest climbing the slopes. The cabin stood at the edge of the tree line, a solid structure of logs with a stone chimney and real glass in the windows. "This is it," Kieran said. "This is home." Maeva slid down from her horse and walked forward slowly, taking it all in. The air smelled of pine and clean water. Birds sang in the trees. The isolation that might have felt oppressive instead felt like freedom. "It is perfect," she said. Kieran dismounted and came to stand beside her. "It is not finished. The inside still needs work, and I have barely started on the barn or the storage shed. But the bones are good, and we can build the rest together." "Together," Maeva repeated, and the word felt like a promise. They spent the next weeks settling in. Kieran had laid in supplies, but they were running low, so he went hunting while Maeva worked on making the cabin more livable. She was surprised to discover how much she enjoyed the work, the simple satisfaction of creating a space that was truly theirs. Her body healed slowly. The bruises faded, and the aches receded. Kieran was patient and gentle, never pushing her beyond what she was ready for, but also never treating her like she was fragile. He respected her strength even as he tended to her wounds. One evening, as they sat on the porch watching the sun set over the mountains, Maeva asked the question that had been weighing on her. "What happens when winter comes? Will we be completely isolated here?" "Mostly," Kieran admitted. "The passes will close and we will not be able to leave or receive visitors until spring. We will be entirely on our own." "Good," Maeva said. Kieran looked at her in surprise. "You are not afraid of the isolation." "I am afraid of the world outside this valley," Maeva said honestly. "I am afraid of what happens if we go back to places where orcs and humans are not allowed to love each other. Here we can simply be. That is worth any amount of isolation." "We will have to face that world eventually," Kieran said quietly. "We cannot hide forever." "I know," Maeva said. "But we can hide for now. We can have this time to be happy, to build something strong enough to withstand whatever comes next." Kieran took her hand, lacing his fingers through hers. "I want to marry you," he said. "I know there is no one here to officiate, no witnesses, but I want to make vows to you. I want to promise you my life and my love and everything I am." Maeva's breath caught. "Kieran, you do not have to answer now," he said quickly. "I know it is soon, and I know you have been through so much. But I want you to know that I am certain. You are who I want for the rest of my life." "Yes," Maeva said. "Yes," Kieran repeated as if he could not quite believe it. "Yes," she said again, turning to face him fully. "I will marry you. I will make vows to you. I want to be your wife in every way that matters." The smile that broke across Kieran's face was like the sun coming out. He kissed her long and deep, and when they finally broke apart, they were both laughing. "When?" he asked. "Now," Maeva said. "Tonight. Why wait?" So they did not wait. They stood on the porch of their cabin as the stars came out, and they made their vows to each other with no one to witness but the mountains and the sky. Kieran went first. "I promise to love you in every season, in joy and in sorrow. I promise to protect you with my life, to support you in all things, to honor your strength and cherish your heart. I promise to build a life with you that is worthy of the courage it took to love me. You are my home, Maeva. Wherever you are, that is where I belong." Maeva felt tears streaming down her face as she spoke. "I promise to love you with everything I am. I promise to stand beside you, to fight with you and for you, to create a life that honors us both. I promise to never hide my love for you, to be brave enough to face whatever the world throws at us. You are my future, Kieran. You are my choice, and I will choose you every day for the rest of my life." They had no rings, so they cut their palms and pressed them together, mingling their blood in the old way of orc marriage bonds. Then Kieran produced a length of cord and tied their hands together, a human custom he said symbolized the binding of two lives into one. "I am yours," Kieran said. "And I am yours," Maeva replied. They kissed as husband and wife, and the mountains seemed to hold their breath around them, as if witnessing something sacred. That night, they consummated their marriage in the bed Kieran had built, taking their time to explore and cherish each other. It was not the first time they had been together, but it felt different now, weighted with promise and permanence. Maeva traced the scars on Kieran's body, memorizing each one and the story behind it. Kieran kissed every bruise still fading on her skin, as if his love could erase the pain she had endured. Afterward, they lay tangled together, skin to skin, heartbeat to heartbeat. "Are you happy?" Kieran asked softly. "I am happier than I ever thought possible," Maeva said. "Even with everything that has happened, even with all the loss, I am happy." "Is that wrong?" "No," Kieran said firmly. "You are allowed to be happy. You have earned it." "So have you," Maeva said, kissing his shoulder. They fell asleep that way, wrapped in each other and the peace of their hidden valley. The weeks that followed fell into a rhythm. They worked together to finish the cabin's interior, to build furniture and lay in firewood for the coming winter. Kieran taught Maeva to hunt with human weapons, the bow and the snare, and she proved to be a natural shot. Maeva taught Kieran the orc ways of reading weather and tracking by scent, skills he had never fully mastered on his own. They talked endlessly, learning each other in ways that went beyond physical intimacy. Maeva discovered that Kieran loved poetry but was terrible at cooking. Kieran learned that Maeva could sing in a voice that made the forest fall silent to listen, but that she was hopeless with a needle and thread. They argued sometimes, about small things mostly, but they learned how to fight fair and how to apologize when they were wrong. They learned each other's boundaries and soft spots, the things that hurt and the things that healed. One morning in late autumn, Maeva woke to find Kieran already up and standing at the window, looking out at the valley with a troubled expression. "What is wrong?" she asked, joining him. "Snow on the high peaks," he said, pointing. "The passes will close within the week. This is our last chance to go to the trading post and get any final supplies we need." "Do we need anything?" Maeva asked. "We could use more salt and flour," Kieran admitted, "and lamp oil, but more than that." He trailed off. "What?" Maeva prompted. "I want to take you there," Kieran said. "I want to walk into that trading post with you at my side as my wife. I want the world to see us together, to see that we are not ashamed." Maeva's stomach tightened with a mixture of fear and fierce pride. "That will cause trouble." "Probably," Kieran agreed. "But I am tired of hiding. I am tired of pretending you are not the most important person in my world. And if we are going to make a life together, we need to start standing up for that life in public, not just in this valley." Maeva thought about it, about the risks and the potential consequences. Then she thought about the 3 men who had tried to save her, about Marcus's bitter certainty that Kieran would never come. She thought about proving them all wrong, about showing the world that love could cross the boundaries they thought were absolute. "All right," she said. "Let us go to the trading post." They left the next morning, riding down out of the mountains toward the frontier settlement of Pine Ridge. It was a small place, barely more than a few buildings clustered around a crossroads, but it served the trappers and hunters who worked the high country. Kieran had been trading there for years. As they approached, Maeva felt her nervousness growing. She had tucked her hair back, making her pointed ears obvious, and she wore her tusks without shame. There would be no hiding what she was. Kieran seemed to sense her unease. He reached over and squeezed her hand. "If anyone gives you trouble, they will answer to me." "I can fight my own battles," Maeva said. "I know you can," Kieran said, "but you should not have to, not anymore." They rode into Pine Ridge at midday. Immediately, Maeva felt the weight of stares. Conversations stopped. People turned to watch them pass. By the time they tied their horses outside the trading post, a small crowd had gathered. Kieran helped Maeva down from her horse, his hand lingering on her waist in a gesture that was unmistakably possessive and protective. Then he turned to face the crowd. "This is Maeva," he said, his voice carrying clear and strong. "She is my wife. I expect her to be treated with the same respect you would show any married woman." The silence that followed was deafening. Then an older man with graying hair stepped forward. Maeva recognized him as Thomas, the owner of the trading post. She had never met him, but Kieran had mentioned him often. "Kieran," Thomas said slowly. "Is this a jest?" "No jest," Kieran said. "Maeva is my wife. We were married under the stars in our valley, and I will fight any man who says those vows are not binding." Thomas looked at Maeva, his eyes taking in her green skin, her tusks, her proud bearing. "An orc," he said. "Yes," Kieran said. "An orc, and a better person than most humans I have met." A woman in the crowd spoke up, her voice sharp with hostility. "This is an abomination. Orcs are monsters. They killed my brother in the border wars." Maeva forced herself to remain calm, though her fists clenched at her sides. "I am sorry for your loss," she said, her voice level. "My people have also suffered losses in those wars. My entire clan was destroyed by human raiders a month ago. I lost my mother, my sister, everyone I loved. Does that make all humans monsters?" The woman's face reddened, but she did not respond. Another man, younger and angrier, stepped forward. "You should not be here. Your kind is not welcome." "My kind," Maeva said, and now there was steel in her voice. "What is my kind? I am a woman who survived a massacre. I am a person who fell in love. I am someone trying to build a peaceful life. If that makes me unwelcome, then your welcome is worthless." Kieran moved to stand beside her, a united front. "Maeva stays with me. If you have a problem with that, you have a problem with me." Thomas held up his hands. "Peace. Everyone, peace. Kieran is one of our best hunters, and he has traded fairly with us for years. If he says this woman is his wife, then that is between him and her and the gods. It is not our place to judge." "It is exactly our place to judge," the angry young man said. "We have standards. We have laws." "And which law says I cannot marry who I choose?" Kieran challenged. "Show me the statute that forbids love between different peoples." The man sputtered, unable to produce such a law because it did not exist, not in writing at least. It was custom and prejudice that forbade such unions, not law. Thomas seized the moment. "Come inside, Kieran, Maeva. Let us conduct our business in private." Kieran nodded and guided Maeva toward the trading post door. The crowd parted reluctantly, and Maeva could feel their hostility like a physical weight. But she kept her head high and her steps steady, refusing to show fear. Inside the trading post, Thomas closed the door and leaned against it, letting out a long breath. "You have certainly stirred things up, Kieran." "I did not come here to stir things up," Kieran said. "I came here to buy supplies and to introduce my wife. If people choose to make trouble out of that, the fault is theirs, not ours." Thomas studied them both, then shook his head slowly. "You are either very brave or very foolish, probably both. But I will say this, you clearly care for each other, and that counts for something in my book." "Thank you," Maeva said quietly. Thomas waved a hand. "Do not thank me yet. I can sell you supplies, but I cannot protect you from the attitudes out there. People are afraid of orcs, and fear makes people do stupid things." "We are not asking for protection," Kieran said. "We are asking for the chance to trade fairly and be left alone." "Fair enough," Thomas said. He moved behind his counter. "What do you need?" They conducted their business efficiently. Thomas did not price gouge them, which Maeva appreciated. He even threw in some extra lamp oil without charge, a small gesture of goodwill. As they were loading their purchases into their saddlebags, Thomas spoke again. "Where are you two planning to winter?" "In the mountains," Kieran said. "In the valley north of here." "Good," Thomas said. "Stay there until spring. Let tempers cool. Come summer, people may have moved on to other concerns. Or they may have decided they want us gone," Maeva said. Thomas did not deny it. "That is possible too, but you will cross that bridge when you come to it. For now, get home safe." They rode out of Pine Ridge with every eye on them. No one tried to stop them or attack them, but the hostility was palpable. Maeva felt it like a blade between her shoulder blades until they were well clear of the settlement. "That went about as well as could be expected," Kieran said once they were alone on the trail. "They hate me," Maeva said flatly. "They hate what you represent," Kieran corrected. "The breaking of their comfortable prejudices. They do not know you. If they did, they could not hate you." "You have more faith in people than I do," Maeva said. "Maybe," Kieran said. "Or maybe I just have faith in time. People can change given enough of it." They made it back to the valley before dark, and Maeva felt the tension drain from her shoulders as soon as they crossed into their hidden sanctuary. Here, at least, they were safe. Here, they could simply be. Winter descended with a vengeance a few days later. The passes filled with snow, and the valley became a world unto itself, cut off from everything beyond the mountains. Kieran and Maeva settled into their cabin and into their marriage, learning to navigate the long, dark months with humor and patience and love. They read books by lamplight, shared stories by the fire, and made love in the warmth of their bed while the wind howled outside. They played games Kieran's mother had taught him and learned to cook together, creating meals that were sometimes disasters and sometimes surprisingly good. Maeva continued to heal, not just physically but emotionally. The nightmares about the raid came less frequently, and when they did, Kieran was there to hold her until she could breathe again. She spoke about her mother and sister, about the clan she had lost, and Kieran listened without trying to fix her grief, understanding that sometimes the only thing to do was bear witness. For his part, Kieran opened up about his own loneliness, about the years he had spent in the mountains with only his own thoughts for company. "I was convinced I would die alone," he admitted one night. "That I would become one of those hermits people tell stories about, the strange man in the mountains who talks to trees. Meeting you saved me from that fate." "You saved yourself," Maeva said. "You chose to talk to me that first day by the creek instead of running away or attacking." "That took courage." "It took curiosity," Kieran said. "I wanted to know what an orc woman was doing gathering herbs in human territory, and then I wanted to know everything else about you. And now you are stuck with me," Maeva teased. "Best decision I ever made," Kieran said and kissed her to prove it. Spring came slowly, melting the snow and opening the passes. They emerged from their cabin into a world green and new, and Maeva felt a surge of hope. They had survived the winter. They had built a real marriage, a real partnership. Whatever came next, they would face it together. They spent the spring planting a garden, building a proper barn for the horses, and establishing a life that felt sustainable. Kieran continued to hunt and trap, and Maeva proved skilled at preserving meat and tanning hides. They talked about the future, about whether they wanted children, about how to make their valley not just a refuge but a true home. Late in the spring, they had a visitor. Maeva spotted him first, a figure on horseback approaching up the valley. She called for Kieran, and they stood together, watching warily as the rider came closer. It was Willem, the youngest of the 3 militiamen who had tried to rescue Maeva all those months ago. He rode alone, and when he reached the cabin, he dismounted with his hands visible and open. "I come in peace," he said. "I am not here to cause trouble." "Then why are you here?" Kieran asked, his hand resting on his knife. "To see if she survived," Willem said, looking at Maeva. "To see if I was right to hope that love could be strong enough." Maeva studied him, then nodded slowly. "I survived, and you were right." Willem smiled, relief evident on his face. "I am glad. Marcus said you would be dead by now, that your hunter never came. I am glad to see he was wrong." "He came," Maeva said, moving to stand beside Kieran. "And this is Kieran Kessler, my husband." Willem's eyes widened. "Husband, you married?" "We did," Kieran said. "Is that a problem?" "No," Willem said quickly. "No, it is wonderful. It is exactly what I hoped would happen." He paused. "May I water my horse? I have ridden far, and I do not mean to intrude on your hospitality, but I would appreciate a moment's rest before I ride back." Kieran and Maeva exchanged glances, then Kieran nodded. "You can water your horse, and you can come inside for a meal if you wish. Any friend of Maeva's is welcome here." They invited Willem into the cabin, and Maeva prepared a simple meal while the men talked. Willem explained that he had left the militia, disillusioned by their rigid attitudes and unwillingness to see orcs as anything other than enemies. "I kept thinking about you," he told Maeva. "About how you refused to give up, how certain you were that your hunter would come. It made me question everything I had been taught. So I started asking questions, listening to stories, and I realized that the world is more complicated than the militia wanted me to believe." "What will you do now?" Maeva asked. "I do not know," Willem admitted. "Find a new path, I suppose. Maybe settle somewhere on the frontier where the old prejudices do not run so deep." "Stay with us for a few days," Kieran offered. "Rest and resupply before you continue your journey." Willem's face lit up. "Are you certain? I do not want to impose." "You are not imposing," Maeva said. "You were kind to me when I needed kindness. That makes you a friend." Willem stayed for 3 days, helping with the work around the homestead and sharing stories from the wider world. He told them that the raider bands had been driven back, that the borderlands were more stable now. He also warned them that the story of Kieran and Maeva had spread, that they had become something of a legend. "Some people tell the story as a cautionary tale," Willem said. "A warning about the dangers of crossing boundaries. But others tell it as a love story, as proof that the wars between humans and orcs do not have to be forever." "What do you tell it as?" Maeva asked. "The truth," Willem said. "Two people who loved each other enough to defy the world and who built a life together despite everything. That is the only story that matters." When Willem left, he promised to return in the fall and to bring news from the outside world. Kieran and Maeva stood on their porch and watched him ride away, feeling less isolated than they had before. "We have an ally," Maeva said. "We have a friend," Kieran corrected. "And maybe in time we will have more. Maybe the world is changing slowly." "Or maybe we are changing the world," Maeva said. The summer was busy and full of life. They tended their garden, improved their home, and explored the valley together, finding hidden meadows and clear pools, places that felt sacred and secret. They made love under the stars and talked about dreams for the future, dreams that felt less impossible now. In late summer, Maeva realized her monthly bleeding had not come. She waited another month to be certain, then told Kieran on a warm evening as they sat by the creek where they had first met. "I am with child," she said. Kieran stared at her, his expression shifting from shock to wonder to pure joy. "Truly, truly," Maeva confirmed. "We are going to have a baby." Kieran pulled her into his arms, holding her as if she were made of glass. "A baby," he whispered. "Our baby, half human, half orc." "A child of two worlds," Maeva said. "A bridge between them. Or a target," Kieran said, his joy shading into fear. "Maeva, there are people who will hate our child just for existing." "Then we will protect our child," Maeva said firmly. "We will raise them to be strong and proud and brave. We will teach them that love is worth fighting for, that differences make us stronger, not weaker. And when they are old enough, we will give them the choice to engage with the wider world or to stay here in this valley. But we will give them that choice, Kieran. We will not let fear dictate how we live or how we raise our child." Kieran searched her face, then nodded slowly. "You are right. We will protect them and raise them and give them every chance to thrive. And anyone who tries to hurt our child will have to go through us first." "Exactly," Maeva said. They spent the rest of the evening making plans, discussing how they would need to prepare for a baby, what they would need to build and gather and learn. It was overwhelming and terrifying and wonderful all at once. Autumn came, and with it, Willem returned as promised. He brought supplies and news, and when they told him about the baby, he was overjoyed. "This is incredible," he said. "Do you know what this means? Your child will be living proof that humans and orcs can build a future together." "Our child will be a person, not a symbol," Maeva said firmly. "Of course," Willem said quickly. "I did not mean to suggest otherwise. I only meant that this is a good thing, a hopeful thing." He also brought troubling news. "There are rumors," he said. "Some of the more extreme factions, both human and orc, are unhappy about your marriage. They see it as a betrayal, a weakening of racial purity. There is talk of sending people to find you to put an end to your union." "Let them come," Kieran said, his voice hard. "This is our land, our home. I will defend it." "You may have to," Willem warned. "I do not want to frighten you, but you should be prepared." After Willem left, Kieran and Maeva had a long discussion about security. They reinforced the cabin's defenses, laid in weapons and supplies, and made plans for how they would protect themselves and their coming child if anyone came looking for trouble. Winter came again, and Maeva's belly grew round with their child. Kieran became fiercely protective, barely letting her lift anything heavy or venture far from the cabin. Maeva found it both endearing and frustrating, and they had several good-natured arguments about whether she was capable of hauling firewood or not. "I am pregnant, not helpless," she insisted after one such argument. "I know," Kieran said, "but you are carrying the most precious thing in the world, and I am terrified of anything happening to you or to our baby. Let me take care of you, Maeva, please." Maeva softened at the raw fear in his voice. "All right. But when the baby comes, you have to stop treating me like I am made of spun glass." "Deal," Kieran said and kissed her. The baby came on a frigid night in deep winter. Maeva's labor was long and difficult, and there were moments when Kieran was certain he would lose both his wife and his child. But Maeva was strong, stronger than he had ever imagined, and she fought through the pain with a determination that was awe-inspiring. Just before dawn, their daughter was born. She came into the world screaming, a tiny creature with green-tinted skin lighter than Maeva's but darker than Kieran's, with little nubs on her forehead that would one day be tusks, and her father's blue eyes. Kieran held her for the first time and felt his entire world realign around this small, perfect being. "She is beautiful," he whispered. "She is ours," Maeva said, exhausted but triumphant. "What should we name her?" They had discussed names for months, unable to agree. But looking at his daughter now, Kieran knew. "Kira. Her name is Kira. Kira Kessler," Maeva said, testing it. "Yes, that is perfect." The first months with Kira were challenging but joyful. She was a good baby, healthy and strong, and she seemed to thrive in the peace of the valley. Kieran and Maeva took turns caring for her, learning on the fly how to be parents, making mistakes and laughing at themselves, and falling even more deeply in love with each other as they navigated this new phase of their lives. Spring came, and with it, the threat Willem had warned them about materialized. They came at dawn, a group of 6 men, armed and hostile. Kieran saw them first and immediately sent Maeva and Kira into the hidden cellar they had built beneath the cabin for exactly this contingency. "Stay quiet no matter what you hear," he told Maeva. "Do not come out until I come for you or until you are certain I am dead." "Kieran," Maeva started. "Promise me," he said. "Our daughter needs you. Promise me you will stay safe." "I promise," Maeva whispered, "but you come back to us. You hear me? You come back." Kieran kissed her hard, kissed Kira's forehead, and then closed the cellar door, covering it with a rug and a heavy table. Then he took up his bow and went to meet the intruders. The 6 men were standing in the clearing in front of the cabin, their weapons drawn. Their leader was a tall man with a scar across his face and hate in his eyes. "Kieran Kessler," the man called. "That is my name," Kieran said, staying in the doorway of the cabin with his bow nocked and ready. "State your business." "We are here to cleanse this valley of the abomination you have created," the man said. "You have married an orc. You have violated the sanctity of your race. We are here to end this travesty." "This is my land," Kieran said, his voice cold and hard. "You are trespassing. Leave now and I will let you live." The men laughed. "You are 1 man. We are 6. You will hand over the orc and you will come with us to face judgment for your crimes." "I have committed no crime," Kieran said. "I have married a woman I love and we have built a life together." "If you see that as a crime, then your judgment is worthless." "Hand her over," the leader demanded, "or we will take her by force." "Come and try," Kieran said. The men moved forward and Kieran loosed his first arrow. It took the leader in the throat and he went down choking. The other 5 hesitated, shocked by the sudden violence, and Kieran used that moment to loose 2 more arrows, each one finding its mark. But 3 men were still standing, and they rushed the cabin. Kieran dropped his bow and drew his knife, meeting them in hand-to-hand combat. He fought with the desperation of a man protecting everything he loved, with skill honed by years of surviving in the wilderness, and with a fury that made him nearly unstoppable. He killed 2 more before one of the remaining men got a blade past his guard and stabbed him in the side. Kieran gasped but did not stop. He drove his knife into the man's chest and turned to face the last attacker. This man was younger than the others, barely more than a boy, and there was fear in his eyes. "Please," he said. "I did not want to come. They made me." "Then run," Kieran said, blood seeping through his fingers where he pressed them to his side. "Run and do not come back." The boy ran. Kieran watched him go, then collapsed to his knees as the adrenaline drained away and the pain caught up with him. He had won, but he was badly hurt. "Maeva," he called, his voice weak. "It is safe now. Come out." He heard the cellar door open, heard Maeva's footsteps, and then she was there, kneeling beside him with Kira still clutched to her chest. "Kieran," she cried, seeing the blood. "Oh gods, Kieran, I am all right," he lied. "Just a scratch." That is not a scratch, Maeva said, already working to strip off his shirt and examine the wound. That is a serious stab wound. You need stitches and bandaging and rest. Did I get them all? Kieran asked, his vision starting to blur. You got them all, Maeva confirmed, her hands moving with efficient competence as she began treating his wound. 5 dead, 1 fled. You protected us, Kieran. You saved us. Good, Kieran said, and then the darkness took him. He woke hours later to find himself in bed, bandaged and clean. Maeva sat beside him, nursing Kira while watching him with worried eyes. You scared me, she said quietly. I scared myself, Kieran admitted. But we are alive. All 3 of us are alive. Because of you, Maeva said. You could have died, Kieran. You nearly did die. But I did not, Kieran said. And now they know that we will fight. Maybe that will be enough to keep others away. It was not enough. Over the following year, 2 more groups came, each one seeking to break up their marriage or kill them. Each time, Kieran and Maeva fought together, defending their home and their daughter with everything they had. Each time they prevailed, but the toll was heavy. Kieran's side wound never fully healed, leaving him with a limp. Maeva took an arrow to the shoulder during one fight, and though she recovered, she lost some mobility in that arm. And always, there was the fear, the knowledge that their daughter was growing up in a place under siege. Finally, after the 3rd attack, they had a serious conversation about whether they should leave the valley, try to find somewhere safer. But where would they go? There was nowhere in the world that would accept them without judgment or hostility. We stay, Maeva said finally. We stay and we fight, and we teach Kira to fight. This is our home and we will not be driven from it. Agreed, Kieran said, so they stayed. And gradually, over time, the attacks stopped coming. Whether it was because they had proven too difficult to target, or because the world was slowly changing, they did not know. But the valley became peaceful again. Willem continued to visit, bringing news and supplies and friendship. He told them that stories about them had spread far and wide, that there were other mixed couples now, emboldened by their example. Not many, but enough to suggest that change was possible. Kira grew from a baby to a toddler to a bright, curious child who looked like both her parents and neither of them. She had her father's eyes and her mother's strength, her father's curiosity and her mother's courage. She was, in every way that mattered, the best of both worlds. On Kira's 5th birthday, Maeva and Kieran stood on their porch and watched their daughter play in the meadow, chasing butterflies and laughing with pure joy. We did it, Maeva said quietly. We built a life together. We survived. We did more than survive, Kieran said, pulling her close. We thrived. We created something beautiful and good out of a world that told us it was impossible. Do you think it will be easier for her? Maeva asked. Do you think Kira will have an easier time than we did? I hope so, Kieran said. But even if she does not, she will be strong enough to face it. We will make sure of that. Maeva leaned her head on his shoulder, watching their daughter. I love you, Kieran Kessler. I loved you the moment you chose to talk to me instead of running away, and I will love you until my last breath. And I love you, Maeva Kessler, Kieran said. You are my heart, my home, and my greatest adventure. Thank you for waiting for me all those months ago. Thank you for believing I would come. I always knew you would, Maeva said, because real love does not abandon you, it does not give up. It finds a way, no matter how difficult the path. They stood together in the fading light, watching their daughter play and feeling the weight of all they had overcome. They had faced prejudice and violence and isolation, had fought for their right to love each other and build a family. And they had won, not through force alone, but through sheer determination and unwavering commitment to each other. That night, after Kira was asleep, they sat by the fire as they had done countless times before. Kieran carved a piece of wood, working on a toy horse for their daughter while Maeva mended clothes. It was a peaceful, domestic scene, the kind they had dreamed of during those early, desperate days. "Do you ever regret it?" Kieran asked suddenly. "Do you ever wish you had gone with those 3 men from the militia? Maybe your life would have been easier." Maeva looked up from her mending, surprise in her eyes. "Not for a single moment. My life with you has been difficult, yes. Dangerous, certainly. But it has also been full of love and meaning and joy. I would not trade it for all the easy, empty lives in the world." "Neither would I," Kieran said softly. Years continued to pass. Kira grew into a strong, intelligent young woman who inherited her parents' courage and capacity for love. She faced her share of prejudice, but she faced it with her head held high, proud of her heritage and the love that had created her. When she was 16, she asked them about that day in the cage, about the 3 men who had tried to save Maeva, and about her mother's refusal. They sat on the porch, the same porch where they had made their marriage vows all those years ago, and told her the whole story. "Were you scared?" Kira asked her mother. "When they said he would not come, were you scared you were wrong?" "Terrified," Maeva admitted. "But I knew, deep in my heart, that your father would come. I knew because I understood the strength of our love. It was not blind faith, Kira. It was knowledge built on every moment we had shared, every promise we had made to each other. Real love is not about grand gestures or pretty words. It is about showing up day after day, even when it is hard, especially when it is hard. Your mother waited for me because she knew me," Kieran added. "She knew I would move heaven and earth to reach her, and I did, because the alternative was unthinkable. A life without her would have been no life at all." Kira absorbed this, then smiled. "I hope I find a love like that someday." "You will," Maeva said with certainty. "Because we have taught you what real love looks like, you will accept nothing less." Willem visited one last time when he was an old man, and Kieran and Maeva were well into middle age. He brought his own family with him this time, a wife he had found on the frontier, and 2 children who played with Kira as if differences in skin color and tusks meant nothing at all. "You were right," Willem told them as they sat together watching the children play. "Love did change the world, maybe not all of it, not yet, but pieces of it enough to matter. The world changed because people were brave enough to love across boundaries," Maeva said. "We were not the first, and we will not be the last, but I am glad we played our part." "As am I," Kieran said. When Willem and his family left, Kieran and Maeva stood on their porch and looked out at the valley that had been their sanctuary and their battlefield, their home and their proving ground. They were older now, their bodies marked by scars and the passage of time, but their love was as strong as it had been that first day by the creek. "Would you do it all again?" Maeva asked. "Every moment," Kieran said without hesitation. "The good and the bad, the easy and the hard. All of it because it led us here, to this life we built together." "Then we did everything right," Maeva said. They went inside as the sun set, closing the door on another day. Behind them, the valley settled into twilight, peaceful and beautiful, a testament to 2 people who had refused to let the world dictate who they could love. In the years that followed, their story spread further than they ever knew. It was told around campfires and in taverns, in orc settlements and human villages. Some told it as a warning, others as inspiration, but all remembered the essential truth at its heart. When 3 men came to save the orc girl in the cage, she refused them all and said she would wait for him. And he came for her because that is what real love does. It finds a way. It keeps its promises. It refuses to give up, no matter how impossible the obstacles seem. Kieran and Maeva lived long lives, saw their daughter grow and flourish, and eventually saw grandchildren arrive. each one a unique blend of human and orc heritage. Each one proof that love could indeed bridge the divides the world tried to maintain. When they were old and their bodies finally began to fail, they sat together on their porch one last time, holding hands and watching the sun set over the mountains that had sheltered them for so many years. "Thank you," Kieran said quietly, "for waiting for me." "Thank you," Maeva replied, "for being worth waiting for." They sat in comfortable silence as the light faded, two people who had defied the world in one, not through force or anger, but through the simple, stubborn, world-changing power of love. Their story did not end that night, not really. It lived on in their daughter, in their grandchildren, in every person who heard their tale and decided that maybe, just maybe, love was worth fighting for after all. The valley remained their sanctuary, passed down through generations, a place where differences did not matter and love was the only law that truly counted. And in the end, that was the greatest victory of all, not changing the entire world, but creating a small corner of it where peace and love and acceptance could flourish and grow, sending seeds out into the wider world with every person who visited and every story that was told. Kieran Kessler and Maeva Kessler lived and loved and built a legacy that outlasted them, proving that sometimes the most revolutionary act is simply choosing to love someone the world says you should not, and fighting to protect that love no matter what comes. They faced every challenge together, celebrated every victory together, and in the end, they left the world a little better than they found it. That is all anyone can hope for, and it is more than enough.